It's going down the wire. Who will be SA's next government? With a little less than a week before South Africans head to the much anticipated polls to cast their votes, it remains to be seen who will occupy the union buildings. Wednesday, May 29th, will be a watershed moment in the history of South Africa, 30 years after the dawn of democracy, as millions of citizens go to make their choice between the 52 political parties contesting. During the Star's political dialogue of the Johannesburg Theatre on Wednesday, where various political party leaders were in attendance to woo South Africa for their vote, the governing ANC was yet again under siege. Speaker after speaker laid down the gauntlet to the party, all in agreement that the party's governance was a blatant disappointment for the past 30 years. The Sun Party, Rise Mzansi, the ANC, the SA Rainbow Alliance, and the Build One SA were represented by their respective leaders, along with the independent candidate Louis Liebenberg. The fiery debate descended into chaos when former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Tutuzile Zuma, representing the ANC, took to the podium. The room, which was packed to the rafters with different political party supporters, started heckling the feisty Zuma, who continued to talk despite being drowned out by the noise. The program had to stop for nearly an hour after supporters started heckling the speakers during the debate. However, it continued after the Star editor and moderator of the session, Sfiso Mahlangu, had all the supporters evacuated for safety reasons. Zuma, who is leader of the party in Greater Johannesburg, continued to make promises, saying the ANC was prioritizing jobs and that had already begun implementing their plan. The first priority of the ANC in their manifesto is getting South Africa into work, which is jobs. Jobs, jobs. In our manifesto, we say we are going to create 2.5 million job opportunities. We have already started that. We are not waiting for May 29th. As you have seen in Gauteng with the Nasi Ispani program, which has employed thousands of people in different types of posts, some of them permanent, some on contracts in different types of sectors, Zuma said. However, leaders of the other parties disagree with Zuma's views, with Umkhonto weSizwe MKP Secretary General Sihle Ngubane saying that the time for the ANC was over, as his party would have a 2/3 majority because the people of SA were tired of the country being run from London and Stellenbosch. South Africa is run from London and Stellenbosch because President Cyril Ramaphosa is unable to think for himself. They, the ANC, failed to free us from colonialism. There is nothing the ANC decides without consulting Stellenbosch. So the decision is not made by the black child. The ANC has never been shaken as it has since the arrival of the MKP. 2024 is the new 1994, Ngubane said. Leader of the newly formed Sizwe Uma Nation, SAN, political party Rashid Ibrahim Guta called out South Africans to vote wisely in the next week's elections, saying the country is in dire need of capable and visionary leaders. The ANC-led government under President Cyril Ramaphosa has mismanaged the country and continues the pillaging and looting unabated. The continued load shedding, water shortages and collapse of Transnet, among other state-owned entities, have had a devastating effect on the economy and living conditions of the people in this country. Yet the ANC-led government wants to be given another opportunity, Guta said. SA Rainbow Alliance Sarah leader Colin Makubele said her party was going Parliament to repeal the Basic Education Laws Amendment bill. We are not going to have a bill that says a 12-year-old girl can have an abortion without parental consent. There is no parent in their right mind who can allow their young girls to have an abortion without their consent. Men are doing evil stuff with our young girls and they want to hide it. By the age of 20, how many abortions that girl would have had? Asked Makubele. Rise Mzansi premier candidate Vuyiswa Ramakgopa said the new party was here to stay, with its primary concerns being ethnical leadership in what was a veiled swap at the ANC. What South lacks is quality ethical leadership. We will uproot ground issues from unemployment, education infrastructure, and service delivery, with our first priority being to capacitate the state, said Ramakgopa. Independent candidate and Diamond Magul Louis Lienberg, saying he had committed himself to changing the lives of Zamazama through artisanal mining and the empowerment of the country's poor people. Liebenberg, who has been advocating for the legislation of artisanal mining, said the jobs plan will liberate the mines to create jobs for South African miners, including Zamazamas. We will not live in this country forever if we do not put the mines and the farms in the hands of our people. My story is not a political story, but a story of a businessman. When I had my story reorganized, I started thinking about the people. It is time to put the mines, farms, gold and platinum in the people's hands. The government is very local about jobs when no one between them can create even one job, he said. Gauteng Premier candidate and co-founder for BOSA, Nobuntu Dazo, launched an attack on both the ANC and MKP, saying the latter was a faction of the former. The ANC had failed to serve the people of South Africa these past 5 years, she said. The priority in this country is creating jobs. It's important to talk about practical and pragmatic solutions, said Dazo. Rise Mzansi says, leaders who broke the system can't be trusted to fix it. The people who broke the system can never be trusted to fix the very same system that broke it. These were some of the sentiments shared by Rise Mzansi chairperson and Gauteng Premier candidate Vuyiswa Ramakgopa during her address at the Stars political dialogue held at the Johannesburg Theatre earlier today. Ramakgopa emphasized that despite the nation commemorating 30 years of democracy, a stark reality persists for 70% of young people. The promise of democracy remains unfelt as they grapple with unemployment, languishing at home, disillusioned, and succumbing to alcohol abuse. That democracy has not been felt either, she said, by the millions of women who suffer under the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide in the country on a daily basis, as well as the 26% of children under the age of 5 afflicted by stunting due to insufficient access to food. If South Africa is to have any hope of reclaiming the dream of the country's former leaders, Ramakgopa said the only choice people had was to go to the polls and elect new leaders come 29th May. The only choice we have is to elect new leaders who can ensure a safe, prosperous, equal and united South Africa. Rise Mzansi is a social democratic party that believes that to the end in equality and progress in society, we must begin with capable and ethical leadership who can recapacitate our state and ensure we actually deliver services for our people. The role of any government in principle above all else is to keep its people safe and ensure the prosperity and well-being of its people, and this government is failing dismally at that. We need to elect new leaders because the people who broke the system can never be trusted to fix the system they broke, she said. Ramokgopa said new leaders were necessary because the people who had presided over public positions for the past 30 years, and not just the ANC but other parties and the political establishment in the country as a whole, was flawed. There are people who have presided over the dysfunction of the country, and now they want us to believe that because they're wearing a different t-shirt that are bringing change, and that will not happen. Bosa Party says SA needs credible leaders to run it. Build one South Africa, says Bosa, says for a government to run a capable state, it needs to employ credible people of the job. Speaking at the Star's political dialogue on Wednesday, co-founder and Gauteng Premier candidate Nobutu Hlazo said one of the key factors one needed to consider when building a capable state was to tighten up the system to ensure that there was no chance of people committing corruption. For us to attain all the factors I have listed, we also need to employ professional police officers and make sure they professionalize themselves. The reason we would want to professionalize them is because part of the problem in the police department starts when one takes the statement, Hlazo explained. She continued to say that digitalizing of the system was of paramount importance, adding that would limit chances of missing or stealing of data or documents. She said the current government was failing to digitalize the system due to its lack of political will. Furthermore, she attributed the failure to implement the digitalization of the system to those who were supposed to do it, saying they were caught up and were accused of engaging in illegal activities. Hence, they would try by all means to not digitalize the system. We need to digitalize the system to ensure there are better efficiency and so that we are able to ultimately prosecute. Part of the biggest issue we have in the country is safety, and crime we can't prosecute because we have zero consequence management, and that lack of accountability makes people do things with impunity. She said one of the most important reasons the country found itself in its current state was that people were led by disreputable leaders overseeing and disruptive government. Due to such leaders, Hlazo said, as South Africans, we did not have a choice but to deal with the outcome of the situation we are faced with. She, however, said that was the end of the road for the government, as people have finally realized what they were subjected to for the past 30 years. The recent violence happening was an illustration of what the country has been enduring. However, we have people who just remembered their power and the governing party was shaken. Our society is violent because the governing party has presided over violent behaviors. Every time I listen to the ANC speak about the past 5 years or 30 years, I realize that the ANC is removed from the realities of South Africa's. She said the governing party did not realize the brokenness of the people that was caused by the brokenness of the system. This is from SG. MK party is for the dispute, says it's SG. The controversies Party, MKP, is an organization of the destitute and the middle class who have been neglected for decades, the party's Secretary General Sihle Ngubane said. Ngubane said the main reason the MKP was established was to restore the dignity of black people. Our main aim as the MKP is to bring dignity to the black child. We are here to stop crooks who are looting the country through load shedding. We are here to bring service delivery to our people and to nationalize the banks. Our organization is not for the bourgeoisie, but for the proletariat, Ngubane said. He was speaking at Johannesburg's theater at the Stars Political Dialogue. He said as the leadership, they were humbled by the support, commitment, and the love South Africans were showing the organization. Ngubane said South Africans were living up to the party's slogan of Asibizangwa siyaziyela, loosely translated as "We are not called, but we are going ourselves." He said the MKP campaign was an easy one, as one just came and made sure that he served the public well. Ngubane said this was due to the fact that people were tired of being treated like second-class citizens in their own country. People are tired of being oppressed, neglected, tired of looters who lie to them. Our people have seen and realized the extended public works programs are only being dished out during election seasons so that they can gain votes. Ngubane took a swipe at government ministers and MECs, saying that they had been nowhere to be seen for the past 4 years. We have not been seeing them because they were looting the state via their private companies, and now the MK party is here to stop all of that. Black people are now going to be a priority number 1. We are tired of our people being taken for granted, Ngubane said. And from MK party, the country is run from London because Cyril Ramaphosa can't think for himself. South Africa is run from London and Stellenbosch because the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, is unable to think for himself. These are assertions of Controversies Party Secretary General Sihle Ngubane as verbal shots were fired at the Star Political Dialogue held at Johannesburg Theatre on Wednesday. Various political party leaders have been in attendance to convince South Africans as to why they were the correct party to take over the government ahead of next Wednesday's election. And that's it from INJIBS Network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.